It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. 2023 truly had some incredible ups and downs for the Boston Bruins, and we'll discuss the best, the worst, and the outlook for 2024 here on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Wednesday, December 27th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day in 2023. It's free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Our Bruins are back in action tonight, taking on the Buffalo Sabres. We'll briefly touch on that later on in the show. Quick reminder, first of all, that you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins on social media. You can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts at Ian C. McLaren. I hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday season. The World Juniors are on. NHL is back tonight. I've spent the past few days streaming a lot of stuff with the family. We're in the midst of a Lord of the Rings rewatch. I finally checked out the Beckham documentary on Netflix, which is fantastic. Just a lot of quality time waiting for the Bruins to get back on the ice, and they will do so tonight. On today's show, however, we're going to take a look back at the year that was. A very bittersweet year for the Boston Bruins and their fans. Unparalleled regular season success juxtaposed with a pretty epic collapse in the playoffs and the end of an era as Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci both announced their retirements. And looking back at the beginning of the year, it kind of set the tone for what was to come. The Winter Classic 2023, played by the Boston Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins, January 2nd at Fenway Park. And it was a 2-1 victory by the Boston Bruins. 2 goals scored in the third period by Jake DeBrusk, his 15th and 16th goals of the season, which is quite a contrast to where he is right now, which is sitting on 4 goals. Now, with that fantastic comeback win came the news that he had injured himself in that game, and he would go on to miss several weeks of action. So this incredible high of winning the Winter Classic, and then the disappointing news that Jake DeBrusk had been injured and would miss some time. Now, yeah, that kind of set the tone for the year. And overall, 2023 was indeed a very good year for the Boston Bruins. Let's look at some of the stats. As a team, they've played 78 regular season games. There's still a few to go here in 2023, but they have put up 119 points, which is 7 more than the Colorado Avalanche in 3 fewer games played. A record of 56, 15, and 7. A point percentage of .763. Only the Rangers are above 700 at .714. So record-wise, in the regular season, the Boston Bruins have been the best team in 2023. And why is that? Well, a big reason is the goaltending. You look at all goalies with at least 35 starts. Jeremy Swayman, Linus Ullmark are 1 and 2 in save percentage in 2023. Ullmark played 42 games. He's got a record of 30, 10, and 2 with a .928 save percentage. Jeremy Swayman has played 39 games with a record of 26, 5, and 5 with a .330 save percentage. Just unreal numbers for the Bruins goaltending duo. And that's a huge reason why the Bruins have been so successful this calendar year. Individually, Boston has one of the top scorers in the NHL. Over the past calendar year, David Pastrnak has the most goals. 56 in 78 games. Yes, Austin Matthews has a better goal per game rate. He's got 50 goals in 67 games. But overall, David Pastrnak has scored 56. He's got 107 points, and that ranks him fourth in the NHL among all players, which is fantastic. And of course, he was a finalist for the Hart Memorial Trophy, presented to the player judged to be the most valuable to his team. Lost out to Connor McDavid. He was a finalist alongside Matthew Tkachuk. But the Bruins did indeed bring home some hardware last season. The Jack Adams Award was given to Jim Montgomery, awarded to the coach judged to have contributed the most to his team's success. And they also took home the Vezina Trophy, awarded to the goalie, judged to be the best at his position, Linus Ullmark winning that. You could argue that the Jack Adams and Vezina Trophy are kind of intertwined, but the reality is Jim Montgomery ended up being the right coach for this team last season, regular season wise, at least. You can argue about his playoff decisions. We'll talk about that more later on in the show. The Selke Trophy, awarded to the forward who best excels in the defensive aspects of the game, Patrice Bergeron, who increased his record number of wins with that victory and then called it a day following that. And then, of course, the Jennings Trophy, which is awarded to the best goalie duo, went to Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. And a bunch of Bruins were on the All-Star teams as well, end-of-season All-Star teams. Pastrnak, Ullmark were on the first All-Star team. Hampus Lindholm was on the second All-Star team. So many positives for the Boston Bruins in 2023. David Pastrnak emerged as, well, he already was an elite player in the NHL, but he further cemented his spot among the game's very best and earned himself a nice contract extension. The Bruins had a wildly successful regular season. They went all in at the trade deadline, adding a bunch of players who became fan favorites. Tyler Bertuzzi, Garnet Hathaway, Dmitry Orlov among them. And lo and behold, despite some of the struggles they had in the spring and through the summer, they came out flying here in 2023-24 and are among the NHL's best teams so far this season. They are currently fourth in the NHL in point percentage and fourth when it comes to overall points. Yes, they had been first. They've come down, as I discussed yesterday, because of a recent they're mired in a 4-game losing streak. They've lost 5 of their past 6. Hopefully, they can end 2023 on a bit of a stronger note with 3 games coming up before the calendar turns. But big picture, we've had a lot to celebrate here in 2023. Now, there were some disappointments, of course, and we'll discuss those here as the podcast continues. Gametime has the best deals for buying tickets to your next Bruins game, your next comedy show, your next music concert. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all events near you, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and a best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Now, with that guarantee, it means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Just download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, just create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Please do subscribe if you have not already. Speaking of YouTube, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Now, what I previously discussed were just some of the highest highs for the Bruins this year. Of course, the emergence of Matt Poitras, also huge, and he scored an empty net goal for Team Canada yesterday at the World Juniors. We'll continue to track his progress at that major international tournament. I had a YouTube commenter say, nobody cares about Team Canada. Don't talk about them. Well, I'm sorry. Matt Poitras is a top Bruins prospect, and he's playing on one of the biggest hockey stages at the moment. So obviously, I'm going to talk about it. Now, it wasn't all great for the Boston Bruins this year, let's be honest. And that was highlighted by the first round loss to the Florida Panthers. They came in with the best regular season record of all time and were unable to get out of the first round. That's just deeply disappointing. And up there with 2019 Game 7 and 2013 Stanley Cup Finals loss as, the most devastating for me personally. Obviously, 2019 is a bit worse. Getting to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final on home ice and not being able to close it out. But losing to the Panthers in the first round after being up 3-1, even now, it's incomprehensible. And you look back to Game 5, Brad Marchand had the game on his stick, could have buried the Panthers with a breakaway opportunity late in that game, like right at the buzzer. What could have been if that puck had gone in, we'll never know. And, part of the reason they lost was some injuries to David Krejci, Patrice Bergeron, both guys kind of showing their age later on in the season. You can question whether or not Jim Montgomery should have practiced a bit more load management down the stretch. You can question whether he should have separated Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron when Bergie was healthy. And despite Marchand showing some chemistry with Charlie Coyle in that series, you can certainly question the decision to put Linus Ullmark back in for Game 6 or not pulling him in Game 5, going to Jeremy Swayman too late. Again, Jim Montgomery had an amazing regular season. The Bruins roster kind of made it a bit easy on him, and when it came down to crunch time, he kind of showed his playoff inexperience there, and hopefully this year he's perhaps a bit more committed to the goalie rotation, a bit more committed to his line combinations, which we haven't really seen here in the regular season. Still seeing a lot of line juggling. And yeah, some lessons learned from him as well. Now, to add insult to injury, not only did the Florida Panthers go to the Stanley Cup Final, which kind of eases the burden in some ways. You want the team that beats you to make good in it and not just get swept in the next round. Okay. But they went to the Stanley Cup Final, which shows that the path was there for Boston to get there. But not only that, they lose to the Vegas Golden Knights, who are, of course, coached by former Bruins bench boss Bruce Cassidy. And we got to see him raise the cup, which he was not able to accomplish in Boston. So Good for him. Bittersweet. And definitely hard to watch still. Bruce Cassidy being fired by the Bruins. The next season, he goes on to win the Stanley Cup. That's not to say it was the worst decision or didn't pay off, or Jim Montgomery's not the right guy for this team. Yeah, kind of kicking us when we're down. Then after that, of course, Tyler Bertuzzi ends up signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Dmitry Orlov goes off and signs with the Carolina Hurricanes. Garnet Hathaway leaves, signs with the Philadelphia Flyers. Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno are traded to the Chicago Blackhawks. David Krejci announced his retirement, as did Patrice Bergeron, going out kind of on top as a Selke Trophy winner, still playing unreal hockey. Surely had 1-2 seasons left in the tank, but decided to go out. And as much as we respect his decision and wish him continued success off the ice and all the happiness with his family, it still hurts not to see Patrice Bergeron in black and gold this season. So those were, some of the lows, and they were pretty low lows. We celebrate Bergeron and Krejci's careers, but we still wish they were Boston Bruins or could have gone out on the highest of team successes as well. And I'll never forget Marchand, who ended up being team captain, hugging Patrice Bergeron at the end of the handshake line following Game 7, and just the tears in both of their eyes because of a job not finished and business left incomplete. So that was kind of the year in a nutshell for the Boston Bruins. The highest of highs in the regular season, epic collapse in the playoffs, and who knows what 2024 has in store, but we'll take a look and kind of extrapolate here as the podcast continues. Now, the weather is getting colder, but the deals remain red hot at FanDuel, the official betting partner of Locked On and the NFL. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets when you win a $5 moneyline bet on FanDuel. And it's not just for the NFL either. You can get in on the action with respect to the NBA and the NHL as well. And they have everything you could possibly want to put money down on, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And for example, tonight's Bruins-Sabres game, the over-under is set at 6.5. So you can get in on the action with FanDuel on that game. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on the action this NFL, NBA, and NHL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, well, who knows what is in store for the Boston Bruins here in 2024. They still do have 3 games on tap to end 2023, and they're currently riding a 4-game losing streak, dropping 5 of their past 6 overall, and it's not going to be an easy path into the new year. They are on the road in Buffalo tonight to take on the Sabres. On Saturday, December 30th, they will be hosting the New Jersey Devils. And then to finish the year, they'll be in Detroit to take on the Red Wings. So, 2023 still has the chance to end on a pretty down note. The Bruins had been in first place. They're now down to 4th. And some expected regression is kicking in here. The goaltending's still been strong. As I mentioned yesterday, there's been some guys who have gone a little cold here. Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk, Hampus Lindholm, Matt Grzelcyk, zeros over their last handful of games. The Bruins are pretty top-heavy when it comes to David Pastrnak and Brad Marchand leading the way. And then after that, you kind of got some fringe top 6 guys, more middle 6, bottom 6 in the mix as well. And the one thing really carrying them this season all year long has been the goaltending. Linus Ullmark, Jeremy Swayman remain at the top of their games. Derek Forbort still on long-term injured reserve. When he comes back, that might help stabilize the defense a bit. But yeah, the Bruins, I believe, will be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to fall all the way out of the playoff picture, although there is only like 12 points separating where they are and the Buffalo Sabres, who are well down in the Eastern Conference standings. Boston's at 44 points. Buffalo's at 32. Buffalo has played 3 more games, however, but still, a lot of hockey yet to be played. More than half the 50 games still on the table for the Boston Bruins. So they can't afford to take too many dips like this down the stretch. Matt Poitras, I believe, will be back with the Bruins following the break. I joked on X yesterday that the Bruins are 0-2-1 without him. Canada's 1-0. Obviously, there's no direct correlation there, but removing a key player from the lineup has ramifications. And right now, the Bruins are feeling that loss despite the emergence of Morgan Geekie. Now, there could be a bunch of turnover this upcoming offseason. Jake DeBrusk is an unrestricted free agent, and he's not really, I mean, he's playing well, playing strong. He's not on the top power play unit. He's not producing the offense we would like. We'll see if there is a contract extension in his future or if the Bruins decide to move on. James Van Riemsdyk, Danton Heinen, Kevin Shattenkirk are all unrestricted free agents, as is Derek Forbort and Milan Lucic, who I don't expect to be back in 2024 as he's facing an impending court date for a domestic incident that occurred earlier this season. Oscar Steen's a restricted free agent, as is Ian Mitchell. The big one is Jeremy Swayman, who they will have to re-sign, and there could be some splitting of the goalie tandem here in the summer. But there's a big opportunity for the Bruins to make some moves in the summer with the bonus overages for Krejci and Bergeron coming off the books. Grzelcyk, Forbort potentially coming off the books. They will have to pay 1.3 for Mike Riley's buyout next season, so that will be on it. But the salary cap is expected to rise as well. So there will be a lot of opportunity for Boston to make some improvements here in the offseason here in 2024. They will not have a first-round pick. Most likely, it's top 10 protected. They should finish outside that range, but they don't have a second. They don't have a third as well, or a seventh. So the draft right now, they might not be picking until round number 4. But first up is cementing a playoff spot. They have the goaltending to steal some games, series there. We never know what's going to happen once you get into the playoffs. So just get there. And then Don Sweeney, some decisions to make as for the future of this team. But with the goaltending tandem, they have a Norris Trophy level guy in Charlie McAvoy, one of the best forwards in David Pastrnak. There's a core there for them to continue to succeed. And we all know that Boston is a destination for players who want to come here and carry the torch forward. So that's kind of the year in review, and still 3 games on tap. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss whatever happens against the Sabres tonight and bring you all the latest here on the Black and Gold on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care, friends.